in addition to my website, I've been putting profiles together on other websites where you can hire musicians to record on your songs. And so one of those is airgigs.com, and you can find singers, keyboard players, guitar player, any kind of instrument. You can find somebody who can record for your music. So I'm on there as a drummer for hire. And when it comes to recording, I offer those services to track drums right here on this beautiful drum set that sounds great in this great room. So how that works is people will reach out to me and they'll say, hey, I have a song or a group of songs that I want you to record drums on this and be a part of this record. What's your availability? How much does it cost for you to do that? And all of those things. And I have a rate sheet that I use for that. So if they want one song, I have a price for that. If it's 3 songs or less, I have a price for that. And then if it's a full album, I have a price. I give a little break. If there's 10 songs or more within the same body of work, then I have a rate that I charge for that. And then if they want just raw drum tracks, great. I've had a handful of situations where they didn't know how to mix drums. We know how to mix drums here. And so we will create a stereo mix, drum mix for them and send them that. And so then they just drop that into their mix. Any mix engineers who might watch this know there could be some challenges in just taking a drum mix and dropping it in, because you're dealing with different frequencies and things that you may or may not be able to blend or get rid of. But I haven't had it not work yet. So I guess if an mixing engineer really knows what they're doing, they could make that happen. So, and this is a total bunny trail here, but all that being said, we just want to be of service and help those clients get what they need, regardless of whatever steps. So anyway, I have a whole pricing schedule, if you will, for all of those things. And I do have tire kickers that will come along in the recording process. And there's kind of like 3 different ways that'll go. Well, maybe more than that. But one is that they'll say, hey, I really like your drumming. Can I get you involved with this project? What's that going to take? And when I come back and say, oh, I'd love to be part of this and help you out. Here's my rate. And then they come back and they go, whoa. You charge for that? Yes. Because I'm in business. And businesses typically charge for their work. I have yet to ever solicit somebody who paints houses and tell them the color I want my house and get all excited. And then when they come back and say, that's going to be X amount of money. And I go, whoa, you mean you don't just, dude, if you painted my house, imagine how many people would know I did it. That's not how it works. That person actually probably wants to be paid for painting your house. So, yes, Greg is on here and I know that he's an engineer. People like what they like, regardless if it makes the producer crawl right out of their skin. Yes, very true. Very true. So that's one scenario where people go, whoa, wait a second, we would have to pay you to do that? Yes, you would have to pay me to record on your record. That's how I pay my mortgage and take care of my family, just like anybody else who has a job, right? That they might love their job, but they still want to be paid for their work. And I'm a big believer in that. Yes, and so then another scenario might be, really, you charge that much? You charge that much and you get away with it? I'm not getting away with anything. I have a price. There's my time that's involved, and my talents. So yes. Oh, and Steve Alderetti's here. Steve says, and buy the equipment to record. Yes, exactly. You know, there's this stuff didn't fall out of the sky into my lap. It's like, God, here you go. Here's all your recording equipment. That could happen. Most likely not. But yeah, there's an investment there to well, start with this room, for example. This room that I'm sitting in that, well, let's see if you know what? I've never grabbed the camera, but let's see. You guys have seen this before. I'm going to try to do this and not destroy everything So there's my drums back there. And we're in the room, the drum room. Take you on a small tour here. It's very interactive now. Let's see if I can get out of the way. Drums, drums, drums. There's the control room over there. Now these, let's see if I can point. Because I'm backwards. These panels, and these panels going this way, these wood panels that you see, it's not just decoration. They actually have a purpose. Low frequencies get, see, I got to point, but that way, this way. I can't. These help control low frequency sounds. And these help with reflection and deflection, because this is a flat surface right here, so sound is going to bounce off of that like crazy. So we have to have special treatment around that window. Here's the door with super thick foam on that, again for absorption. And you've probably seen these panels before. Panels, so absorption and reflection and all of those kind of things. So, and then on the ceiling, we have sound treatments on the ceiling as well. You know, the ideal height for recording drums in a room is 10 foot or more. My ceiling in here is 9. So above the cymbals, we have panels that are called clouds. And so I'm trying to point backwards. It's very interesting here. It's like brushing my teeth left-handed. The microphones for the cymbals are, you probably can't see it, but it's right there. So the sound of the cymbals go up and into the microphone. So before I had those clouds there, the sound would hit the ceiling and reflect back into the microphones, and you get this really weird garbage sound that would happen. So we put those to fix that. I didn't dream this up on my own. I had professional sound engineers come to my studio and they're clapping and so forth, and said, okay, these are the kind of things that you need to do in order for your drum sound to be correct. So there's not only this pretty steep investment to build this room, just the construction alone, okay? There's an investment in that. The flooring, the special insulation that's in the walls, the special insulation that's in the attic, the wiring, all of that stuff, painting, and then the sound treatment behind the drums. That's an exterior wall. That required a lot of special ideas and thoughts and construction to make that wall work. So there's a steep investment just in the construction of this room. There's a substantial investment in the drum set itself. Then we have all the wiring that goes through the walls, through the ceiling, into the control room. The interface there, for the cost of the computer, the microphones, and all of that stuff. Tens of thousands of dollars spent, you know. And so when people say, hey, can you record on my song? Yes, I can. But you have to pay me because I'm in business, and which is great. That is part of my plan, right? Was to be able to, I teach drum lessons here, and then I record music here. This room is used for rehearsals for Cliff Miller and also for Midline. Greg's on here. I'm always curious what other engineers say. Drum rooms are the hardest thing to get right. You can fudge most everything else, but having a good drum room takes... This is the problem I have. We're trying to see more. Greg, this will probably work after I tap it 20 times. I might have to come back to your comment. This frustrates me when I'm live here and I want to see the rest of your comment. Dang it. I might have to catch back up. But yes, I think all of that being said, drums are the hardest thing to record. And probably to expand off of what I might be guessing what Greg would say, how great are those drums tuned? That's a huge one. How do the drums actually sound? If the drums don't sound great, then you're faced with band-aiding of those sounds and or doing drum replacement, which is really super common because you can have all kinds of different plugins for drum sounds to take your crappy kick and snare sound and replace it with a pre-recorded, great sounding kick and snare sound, and so on and so forth. So your performance still exists, but the sound you're getting are a triggered sound somewhere else. And those plugins typically aren't cheap. But somebody's selling thousands and thousands and thousands of those plugins to people all over the world. So they're making bank. Big bank. So, gosh, I wish these hiccups would go away. So there's the, you have to have great sounding drums. And then, you have to have microphones that are made for capturing drum sounds, which I have. If I use my entire kit, we've got 14 microphones going in here because we have 2 room mics that we use. You'd be surprised how much having a room mic adds to the overall quality of sound you get from the drums. Greg, what are your thoughts on the triggered fret? My thoughts on that, Greg, from a drummer perspective, and this might be just a little bit of my stubborn ego might be in the way, I'm not a fan of that. But I will say that I've heard great sounding records. I think everybody knows what I mean by records. Great sounding songs that you hear typically have some kind of sound replacement going on or a blend. So you might take the snare sound has maybe some characteristics to it, but it might be missing some certain element. And so somebody might blend a triggered snare drum sound with that. Sometimes it's like a 70% natural sound of the drum blended with like 30% of a triggered drum sound. I think that's really super common. My ears will hear that though, because of just how unbelievably consistent a snare drum hit is. Greg's is a recording and mixing engineer, if people don't know that. So we could probably talk shop forever. But to answer your question, at first I'm not generally a fan of it, but maybe ends up becoming a thing that's necessary. I would try to stay away from it personally. So Mary's here, the producer. If your drums sound bad, then replacing is a good thing. Yes, everybody uses the same triggers. That's why these sounds all sound the same. It's like, did these last 75 bands all use the exact same drum kit with all the exact same settings? That probably, Greg, would be an example of like, okay. It's almost like making every singer sound exactly the same. How How come Justin Bieber just sang on the last 80 songs I heard? Oh well, ooh, AI, that's starting to be a thing. I don't even want to get started talking about that, so I shouldn't have brought it up. But yeah, so for recording, I'm not a fan of sound replacement. I understand the reasons. Like for example, Roland and Yamaha both make unbelievably great sounding digital kits. What did you say, Mary? AI, huh? I don't. It's kind of blurry, and I thought you said all hail AI. Dream kick, dream snare, yeah. Yeah, Steven Slate's, he's, I believe that's a rich man. So anyway, I'm getting too far off top. Anyway, yes, Steve already said, yes, you have to buy the equipment. So this room is built for drums. Imagine that. Because I'm a drummer. So, there were soundproofing concerns, and then concerns on being able to capture really great sounding drums. And when I've recorded drum tracks for people I've never even met, and record and send them away, they're like, perfect, exactly what I wanted. So getting back, I think I was more talking about like the hiring side of that. So there's people that, they go, whoa, you actually charged to do that? I thought this is something you just did for fun. Yeah, I spent $20,000 to just have fun. That's just a number I threw out there. I didn't spend 20 grand, but I guess you could probably come very close to that very easily. It was just a point. It was just a talking point, 20 grand, right? So if you had a $20,000 investment into building and buying equipment, you want to, that's an investment in your business, right? Just like when I had a landscaping business, I had to buy equipment for that. At one point I was looking at buying a skid steer that cost $60,000 or more, depending on what you wanted. I didn't just go to somebody's house and dig up their yard for free. That stuff has to be paid for in some way. Plus, everybody has a job and they need to make money. So then I've had people message me and they just want some budgetary numbers to work off, and they're like, great, I got this thing I'm going to work on as soon as it's ready to go. You're definitely in, buddy. And then they'll come back later and say, well, it didn't work out. Well, I wasn't counting on you. I've had one person ask me like, well, you'd be the only one that I would be paying on this project. I don't know what to tell you, because I can't speak for the other people who are offering to do this for free. If they want to do that, that's awesome for them. It's not awesome for me, because this is what I do for a living. Yeah, and I do have some people that I collaborate stuff on, and the reasons behind that are completely different than recording drums for somebody. That's the other cool thing, is like when you record and you put a song out there, it's forever, right? Unless you want to re-record it again. Just like Midline has 4 albums out. Those songs are recorded, they're out there to the world. That's forever. There's no bringing it back home. It's there. So when you record and release music, it's out there for the public forever and ever. So how great do you want that drum track to be? Not saying that you can't do that without my involvement, because there's a lot of great drummers out there that can do that. But somebody once said, well, you'd be part of my band. No, I'm not in your band either. I have my bands that I'm in, and that's a totally different animal. The easiest people to work with for recording clients are, I don't know them, or I do know them, and either way, Let me back that up. Scratch that from the tape. The easiest people to work for are the people that go, hey, Fred, I know that you do this. I need to get this song recorded. What do you charge and what's your timeline? When they're just really quick to the point, then I pretty much know that they're going to hire me. So I say, okay, cool. I dig the song. One song's going to be this amount. And they go, great, how do I pay you? Or what's your payment schedule? So right now I get half up front and half on the back end. I don't start anything without receiving some kind of down payment on my time. So I say, okay, I'm going to record. I could have it, like I'm always set up to record. So normally I can turn around a track in just a couple days because I got to hear the song, learn it, make sure that it fits in my schedule. Typically does. So I get half payment. I'll record the song, send it off. They might go, great, can you change this one little thing? So I'll do 2 changes. But usually people are really clear on what they want. So I'm really good at adapting to that. Great. Send them a rough of what they want. They pay the rest. Individual tracks in. Done. Those are the people that are the easiest to deal with. They're just like, what do you charge? What's your timeline? This is what I charge. This is my timeline. Great. Payment. Boom. Tracks. Boom. Done. Sent off. Those are the people that are awesome to work with. And then they come back and these drum tracks are great. Let's see. Let me catch up on. Oh yeah, Steve is just asking what's my typical turnaround when hired. Yeah, 2 to 3 days is typically all it takes. When I actually have to know the song, it might just take a couple hours to do it because I got to learn the song, work through the parts a little bit, and then go. That's pretty standard, 2 to 3 days to turn around a drum track. I have done them faster than that, but on average, 2 to 3 days is what it takes to turn a drum track around. So that's how the recording session stuff works. And of course, we're also able to do full production stuff. We've had clients in here that record everything: drums, bass, guitar, vocals, keyboards, cello, fiddle. Done all of that. Most of the stuff that you hear that we've released with Cliff Miller, most of that has been done here. Cliff will typically do his vocal tracking at home and sometimes guitar. That's the really cool thing about technology now, is that we can work separately together. It's super efficient that way, as opposed to the old days, when and there's something really unique and fun about the old days too, when you would all get in a room and flesh out a song, and in fact we were doing that last night with midline rehearsal, coming up with a song, and then everybody goes in the studio and everybody records at the same time, and those kind of things. As we're gotten older, time is the biggest factor, like getting everybody together and to be able to work. But most people I play music with have some kind of recording capabilities just from their own home. And so and I think Greg may have mentioned earlier in this thread that, you can get in a closet and record vocals because it's super dry to record vocals, because all the clothes are absorbing sound. To get a really clean vocal is not too hard if you just are smart about it. And you're typically not miking up guitar cabinets anymore. It's just direct. Same with bass. But drums are loud, very loud. Cymbals are ear piercing, and so having a room that you can control that environment, not everybody has that. So that's the one benefit that I have is this isn't my kitchen. This isn't my bedroom. This isn't my living room. This is my studio. It's an actual room in my house. It's not a bedroom. It's not a converted bedroom, those kind of things. So specifically built for recording. I think I've said that 300 times already. So that's how it works for me for tracking drums. And I've just I went and sought out advice of people who are extremely qualified sound engineers who knew how to tune a room. So that you would say this room is tuned. The drums sound amazing in here. Even my students come and they start sitting down, they're playing like, oh my gosh, it sounds so great in here. Well, a lot of that is great sounding drums in a great sounding room. It's pretty cool. If these drums are just set up in a garage with all these reflective surfaces, concrete floor, it would be a very harsh environment to listen to drums, no matter how great they're tuned. Just the environment is very harsh. So I just mentioned midline. So I'm going to get to my second topic, which was luck. And you guys probably saw that Midline announced we have a new bass player, Mr. James Lancaster. Now, if you guys know James, you probably scratch your head a little bit and go, James is a bass player? James is a multi-instrumentalist musician, mostly known for his guitar work because he's a shredding guitar player. But he also plays drums and he also plays bass. He's got an incredible singing voice. He may know how to play other instruments, I don't know. As well as I know James, he probably can play a lot of things or figure it out. Keyboard probably is one. He probably wouldn't consider himself a pianist, but he could probably play keyboard patches. He's a very smart musician, well-educated, and just... so from a technical standpoint, he's great. From and a feel part of music, he's amazing as well. So you guys probably saw that when we did the concert at the beginning of August that James was playing bass for that, and which was great because originally Scott Alexander from Dishwalla was going to play that show with us. Dishwalla ended up getting booked and so we needed a bass player. The crazy thing, just a side note about midline bass parts, they're not traditional bass playing parts. And I think that's probably why when we would solicit certain people we knew to see, hey, would you be interested in checking, because Stymie had left the band. Would you be interested in checking out playing with midline and those kind of things? And at first they'd be excited and say, sure, give me a couple songs to learn. And you'd send them and they'd come back and go, man, this is way more involved than I thought it was going to be. And so if we think back, like Stymie was originally a guitar player. So he plays bass like a guitar player would play bass, which worked out great for what we were doing. And taking a step back even further, when Alfred De Verona was the bass player for Midline, he too had started out on guitar, so he was a guitar player that ended up playing bass. And so now, on totally the other side of this, when we needed a bass player, and James was over here doing some other recording work, and I was kind of going through this whole scenario with him, he's like, well, I can play bass. And it wasn't something that I had even entered my mind to ask James about playing bass. And so when it came down to like, okay, this is really important now to find a bass player, Anthony goes, remember James said that he could play bass? And so I called up James and I said, you remember when you said you could play bass? Well, could you do that for Midline? He's like, yeah. So that worked out perfect because James is a guitar player who is now playing bass for Midline. He didn't stop playing his other projects, just added one into the mix. So once the show was over and we were deciding what the next steps for us would be for Midline to take, we had some other opportunities to finish up some stuff with Scott, and then, again, time and scheduling. And what we really wanted was somebody who wanted to be actually in the band and be a part of everything that was happening. And talking with James, he's like, yeah, I'm looking for an opportunity like this anyway. And there was no question of ability here. It was availability for one, and two was like, how great is the hang? Because all of you people who are in bands know that if you can get along great with your bandmates, everything else is going to be much, much easier to deal with, because there's going to be ruffled feathers from time to time. Somebody has an idea that's contrary to somebody else's, or just buttons get pushed, and I think that destroys bands really fast. Just some people can't seem to get out of their own way to further the cause of the goal. But James checks all the boxes for us. So I made this announcement on the Midline page, and then on my personal page, and the other guys did the same. And a really great friend of mine, who I'm not going to say, if he wants to make himself known, that's fine. He said, man, having James Lancaster is a great, you guys are lucky to have him. And I know what he intended by saying that. Like, he didn't intend any, like, anything bad about that, like we just tripped and fell into having James Lancaster. But it made me think, like, what does luck have to do with anything? So, sorry, my other microphone's falling. I had to look up, what does luck mean? And so Google told me that luck is actions brought on by chance and not by somebody's own actions. So I guess actions brought on by chance is like playing the lottery, where, what was it, $1 billion recently? I don't pay too close attention to that, but when the number gets that high, you might raise an eyebrow. So, you can do a quick pick for the Powerball, or you can randomly pick numbers. So luck would be somebody grabbing that and doing like a quick pick, or choose their own numbers, and then lo and behold, as the balls are bubbling up in the whatever that thing is, and all your numbers pop up that you chose, or it was just so random. That would be luck. Does anybody agree with that? That would be luck. But when I built this room, my kids might have helped hold some materials so Dad could hammer or screw things together. But it's not just by luck that man, Fred, you're so lucky to have that drum room. Am I? Was luck involved with that? This room started out as a place that for me to practice and not bother the neighbors or the family. It still bothers the neighbors and the family, but it's working how it should. So I built this room initially to have a place of my own to play drums. So I measured and I figured out how many 2x4s I would need, how many rolls of this special insulation I'd need, how many sheets of sheetrock I would need, on and on and on. So then I could budget, okay, it's going to cost me this amount of money to go and get these materials and build this room. It wasn't just luck, it was a lot of hard work is what it was. I had an idea, I had a thought, I put that thought on paper, I attached a price to it because it costs money to put this room together. I have construction abilities, so I didn't have to hire somebody to do that. And it's not luck that I had those skills either. I was trained to do that. So when somebody says, "Oh, you're lucky to have James," well, it's all preparation meeting opportunity, right? Like, we spend our lives, key word, our lives. We spend our lives, which means there's a huge investment of time and dedication to building and refining our abilities and our craft and our love for playing music. So that's what I've done, JB, Anthony, James, all in our own little world, right? So these worlds build and you start connecting with people, and so then you end up playing music together. And so it's not luck, James didn't fall off the Amazon truck or was misdelivered like, oh, here's this person with the bass guitar and all this ability, and he just happens to be standing. That would be luck. So when, I don't want to say this like from a bragging standpoint, because sometimes I think, oh man, if I go back and watch some of these, I think, oh, Fred, you should just stop talking. I think I just get excited because I've had this musician dreams from the moment I started drumming when I was 10. I just fell in love with drums so much. I got so excited about drums. I'm still excited about drums. But it's not by luck that I am doing what I'm doing now. It's just been a lot of hard work and just relentless dedication to it. And sometimes it's been frustrating. Me and the producer have been right over there in that room, and we've had words a few times. Imagine that. Me and my wife have had words. Yes. And, and Mary's is a great musician too. So, we have a great relationship, so we can weather words. But the thing that we've created, like, she's always supported me even before she was heavily involved. She's always supported this dream that I had, and I feel like I am living my dream and still chasing other possibilities of this dream. Like, more and stuff keeps coming together, but it's not luck. It's not luck. It's really hard work and just being really purposeful in what I'm choosing to do, when I'm choosing to do it, and how I'm choosing to do with it. And so I think that's the same, like if you're whatever business that you're in, if, I mentioned like kind of blue collar jobs because that's what I've always had. I had a landscaping business for a while. I always had jobs before that I could quit really easily if drumming, because drumming was always more important. So just like in Wayne's World, I have a collection of name tags and hairnets. I have a collection of worn out gloves and boots from digging in the dirt, all those kind of things. But yeah, the music, luck has nothing to do with it. And so that's what I want to talk about. We have a new chapter of Midline going, and it's not by luck that James is here. It's through a networking of friends and knowing each other's abilities, but more importantly is like, how well do I get along with these people? And James is probably one of those guys who gets along with anybody and everybody way better than what I think I am, because I can be stubborn too. And I can have my thoughts and beliefs that might prevent me from having great relationships. Let's see. Marcy says, any suggestions to take talents to the next level? Yes. So, because I'm going to try to wrap this up by 8, so I just have a few minutes. So Marcy, if you want to talk more about this on the side, I'd be happy to, but let's see if I can answer your question in just a couple minutes. So I think this is true for all of us, just not Marcy. Whatever level we think that we are, some people are fine with where they are. And that's great. Maybe that's all that they want to do. Maybe they have their day job, working at some corporate gig, whatever. There's a million different careers out there, and so people might just do music on the side. But Marcy, without knowing specifically, what you want to see happen, but I mentioned and throughout these coffee talks, how we present ourselves, I believe, is really, really important. so that, you know, what we wear on stage. um, and then, you know, I'm not a fan of seeing iPads on stage. I've been very vocal about that. So there's those kind of things. But maybe you might even be thinking like, maybe the quality of the people that you're surrounded with aren't what you want. So I think it's the same as true as for me is, who do I want to be surrounded by? Not only because you just want to be great friends with them, but it's almost hard to say this without thinking like, oh, I have an ulterior motive. So if you wanted to be a heart surgeon, you know, there's steps that you would take to become that, right? You wouldn't start your own practice without any knowledge. you would surround yourself with people who have the answers to those questions. There's school to go to and whatnot, and there's a path you take. Musicians, not so clearly defined because it's art, and sometimes people become successful through different channels. I think ability is a must. You have to have ability, availability, and just getting to network with people who are already doing what you want to do. So that would be my suggestion is getting in the circles with people who are already doing what you want to do, who are at a level that you think that you want to be. So whatever that equates to in your mind, that those are the people that you need to start connecting with. And you know, there's this saying called your network is your net worth. I think that's true like subdivisions. Like you can drive through a subdivision and all the houses are similar in size. Typically everybody's yard is about the same size. How they take care of their property is probably pretty equal. How many cars do they have dripping oil all over your nice paver driveway? You know, or you drive through a gated community, you know, those people probably make similar money, you know. Those are all things to consider, you know, like your network is your net worth. So I hope that helps, Marcy. Like I said, you can definitely message me on the site if interested, or we could talk on the phone. That would be fine too. So maybe get on a conference call or a speakerphone with Mary, because I know you two know each other fairly well. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. But thanks for hanging. If you're catching the replay, awesome.